Was this meeting properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
We'll do a roll call vote by introduction.
Chuck Quick, District 5.
Rocky Gilner, District 2.
Rick Pease, District 10.
Randy Thiessen, Citizens Member.
Jody Shapey, District 7.
Barb Morgan, District 6.
Bruce Knockreiner, Citizen Member.
Dustin Grant, Director of Zoning and Land Conservation.
Lauren. We have a new secretary, so she's going to have to. You have to introduce yourself.
Lauren Taft, Recording Secretary.
All right. We need a motion to approve the agenda. All right. We have a motion by Chuck, a second by Rocky. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We need a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes from February. We have and we have a second from a motion by Rocky and a second by Randy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. A surveyor's report. Jerry, you're up.
Okay, mostly what I've been doing over the last month here is working on the section corners that are missing from when we did the project. One kind of interesting one, or actually two, that are in the middle of some cranberry bogs. That's pretty well gated, that area. So rather than trying to set reference marks inside the property, what I'm doing is setting them along the road so they're accessible to anybody at any time. That seemed like the best solution to that particular issue. And I'm sure the landowner's happy about that as well. So other than that, it's been business as usual.
Any questions for Jerry? Thank you, Jerry. Jody, you're up next.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, super. My annual report was in your packet. I don't know if anybody has any questions in regard. It's pretty standard, but I don't know if anybody's got any questions on it.
Anybody have any questions? No, they're shaking their head no.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Jody. It's Jody Shapey.
Oh, hi. Hi.
Just curious if you could indicate where the funds go for the child trust that you indicate down at the bottom of your report in your footnote.
Those funds go to the state of Wisconsin through the Vital Records Program. Children's Trust Fund is actually now known as Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Board. I had checked on that previously and a couple of years ago in regards to where those funds are going, but we haven't heard anything lately. And so I did a little research on that again. And just so you know what the amount that goes in every year, and it's only based off the first birth certificate, not the subsequent birth certificates for each person that orders them. The amount that went into that Children's Trust Fund was $1,755 from Adams County. And I don't find where Adams County is doing any programs right now. I know a few years back, they did get some grant money out of that program to do a joint program with Green Lake, Adams, and I think Marquette County. And then I also found the biannual report from the board 2019-2021. And it looks like Gunderson Lutheran Medical Foundation in 2020 had $50,000 invested in that, and they served 2,611 people And it's serving Adams, Crawford, Grant, Jackson, Juneau, La Crosse, Marquette, Monroe, Richland, Trumbull, Vernon. And what I will do, because I'm very curious about this too, as far as what they did in Adams County, and I'm on the Patient and Family Advisory Council for Gunderson here. And so we have a meeting either the end of March or first part of April. So I'm going to check into that because I am curious, because we've asked Children's Trust Fund over the years to give us a report because we think it's fair for the customer who's purchasing that certificate to know where that funds are going.
Okay, so you'll let us know once you find out more information?
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Land information, Jody?
And I really don't have anything new to report there. As Jerry said, we're pretty well finished with that public land survey system project, but I appreciate that he's getting those other ones done because it is important for the surveyors to measure from, as you as stated before, it is cost effective for Adams County to have those good monuments in place because it reduces the amount of time that surveyors have to try to establish finding that corner. And I would assume in the long run, it would save the customer money from a private surveyor trying to locate those corners. I know that there was a bill that was going forth to the Senate that was going to require some real finagling on the county's part, not just Adams County, but statewide in regards to addressing, because the realtors were trying to get it so the addresses would be preliminary assigned before the plat would be recorded. There's some reasoning behind it in regards to knowing the enumeration of a range of numbers. If you're purchasing a lot, some people are very superstitious or it's their culture or something else. So, but the problem is that it actually created more problems because until you know where that driveway is going to be located, the county can't issue that address correctly based on the grid, which also provides emergency services. I did talk to Senator Joan Ballweg and we were successful in getting that bill stopped for right now, and then taking some time to relook at that to see how can we resolve this issue. So.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Jody? Thank you, Jody. We'll go on to the public hearings. Dusty, the first one.
The first application is for Good Life Vacation Rentals, rezoning request of a parcel, 9.95 acres, from A3 secondary ag to PR planned residential on property located in the southwest quarter of southeast quarter, section 5, and northwest quarter of northeast quarter, section 8, township 14 north, range 6 east, lot 5 of CSM 1519, town of Del Prairie, Adams County, 1136 County Road K. The town of Del Prairie submitted the request for town participation, and they do not object to the request. They felt it fits the residential area of future planned land use. I also received, you should have all seen an updated map that was on the agenda that came end of last week, I believe. I did also receive correspondence from the Highway Commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the Good Life rezoning request. The Highway Department has no concerns with the request. I did receive correspondence from Richard Blatter. I own the property at 1151 County K. I enjoy the area and the serenity of the area. I do not want lots of traffic and campfires and people milling about across the street from me. This is a wonderful area. Please keep it that way. Therefore, please register my vote as a no vote for this. Thank you. He did also call in. I believe we did receive other phone calls, and I believe most of those people are on the call today. And I don't believe we had any other correspondence. No. And this is just the rezone portion. Right after, we will do the conditional use for the, if approved.
All right. I see Robert on, Bob. You want to have anything to stand on this? Oh, I'm sorry. Robert, do you have anything to expand in on this?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Robert Roth of Roth Professional Solutions, representing Good Life Vacation Rentals, and Jeremy Ringdahl, who is also attending today. Just to a very, very brief explanation of the project, and I'll turn over to Jeremy if that's all right, for his input as well. Site is currently an established single-family area or home that is, Jeremy is currently cleaning up. It's kind of fell into a state of a little bit of disrepair. He's cleaning that up, of course. And then the plan is to provide multiple short-term family units that would be in a commercial nature, short overnight stays, weekends for small groups. They would be small cabins, nothing of a larger single-family home nature, more smaller. And that's the kind of the nature of the project, is that mod cabin appeal with A-frames, smaller units, down to the smallest dimensions available for folks that want to just get away. The project would be low impact on the site, would be set back off of the highway, approximately 100. The one unit is approximately 100 feet off the highway with a tree buffer. The existing driveway would remain in its current location. And we would make various improvements within the property to suit the development, and including sanitary service and septic, water service. In addition to the facilities that are already there, we would add water and sanitary services. And we really emphasize, again, a quiet, not large groups, low impact, including environmentally as to the extent possible. We would integrate the proposed construction into the landscape as much as possible. So we're not anticipating a great deal of traffic. We're thinking of, it's not like a campground setting. It's more of a place to, for folks to stay, get away, disconnect. And as a result, that's the layout that you have provides separation of the units, not a lot of density. Full accessibility, but a lot of times folks would have to walk to their unit, so you wouldn't be able to drive right up to your unit. So you can kind of get a feel for the low impact nature that we're pursuing on this project. We have different varieties of cabins that would go in. The existing home would be utilized as a cabin ultimately. Of course, we wouldn't start with the full 11 right away. We would work into it with 1 or 2 units in the first build, and gradually increase as the market potential. We settled on the site plan that you have, so you could see our overall intent. We thought that was fair, but quite frankly, initially, we're just looking to get a couple of additional units, or a couple of initial units in, to be able to get this concept going. Jeremy and his company is established in the area of managing these types of facilities and would be fully responsible for the maintenance and the care of this. And it's something that they're totally investing in and putting 100% of their efforts in, and they're prepared to back that up with their energy and effort going forward. The practicalities of it is that the driveway would be extended to get back to the rear portion of the property to a point. We have a turnout available there for fire and EMS vehicles should they be needed back into that area. We've allocated space for stormwater, septic, and other basic facilities, but not a great deal of impact. So it's essentially my quick summary. If it's all right for the planning and zoning to turn it over to Jeremy for his, if that's okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Now we
Yes.
can, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Yep. So like he said, really low impact. The biggest thing for me, we're a family. It's me, my wife, our 2 children, our young children. We're not a huge corporation. We live in the Dells. It's a 15-minute drive. We're very hands-on. We do have 3 rentals in Springbrook. They do sleep 16 people. We really don't want to do that. We want to get away from that. We really want to create meaningful experiences for couples, weekenders, retirees, people that just want to enjoy life just to disconnect. We're not into the party crowds, the bachelorette parties. We don't want to be the Dells. We don't want it to become Mount Olympus. We don't want it to be something out of control. To us, when we do, we try to think of what we would want if we were living next to the property. We have 30-foot setbacks on all sides. The cabins were planned very strategically to respect the people in the neighborhood. And I'm pretty confident they won't even know that it's there. If you looked at an aerial Google Maps, you wouldn't even be able to tell there was a community down there. So we're trying to be very careful, very respectful. We already have 4.9 stars on Airbnb with the houses we have. No complaints from our neighbors. Everybody will have my personal cell phone number if they ever had any concerns with their blessing. The biggest thing to us, of course, is just to respect the people in the area. I've talked to a lot of people in person, not everybody, but had sit downs, went and knocked on doors, and just hoping for support and open to suggestions and ideas. We want to be good partners with everybody involved. So that's the goal. That's the goal. We're very flexible, very easygoing, easy to work with. So that's all I got, unless you have any questions for me.
Committee, do you have any questions? Anybody from the committee?
How about remarks?
Okay, we'll open it. The committee doesn't have any questions at this time. We'll be opening it up to the public. You will need to state your name, your address, and you will be limited to 3 minutes. All right, is there someone from the public that would like to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Steve Stern. I'm actually highway, my number is 1142 Highway K. I'm next door to Jeremy. I really do not want 11 cabins going straight down to where I hunt. And Jeremy, you sort of lied to me this fall when you came over and introduced yourself and said you were fixing up one cabin to rent out. That would be fine. And you even told me I could hunt that property if I really wanted. And now I get a letter saying you're putting a resort in next door to me. There's no way in hell I want that next to me. I've been up there 35 years. That's my hunting ground. I'm not gonna have cabins all the way to the back of the lot line. That's what I got to say, no.
All right, thank you. Someone else?
Yeah, I'm Richard Blotter, and I'm on 1151 across the street, kind of kitty corner to that. And I have mine for the serenity and enjoyment of nature. And I know darn well they're going to rent to hunters during the hunting season, and I don't want anybody sneaking out and trying to poach my game, as it were. So put me down for a great big no.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Do we have someone else that wants to speak?
Brian Henry, can you hear me?
How about me?
You, Mr. Woosley?
Yes, Mr. Woolley. I'm at 1172. And so I'm not within that 300 feet range, but I can tell you, so I never got a letter on this here. But the majority of the people that you're interviewing here today or talking to here today had contacted me, and I'd contacted some of them. If you went down Highway K, 1 mile from 13, you'll find 15 homes. Within 15 homes, you're going to find 11 of them that are senior citizens, as you've already seen a couple of them here today. Of them 11 senior citizens homes, you're going to find 3 of them that are over 80 years, 4 of them that are over 80 years old, and 3 more that are 90 plus years old. We didn't move here 25 years ago to live next door to a resort. If you go around Adams County and other counties, you'll see these country resorts, and all they do is cause crime. They have trespassing constantly. We have all kinds of problems with them. not to say about the garbage that's along the roads. If you see Highway K for that mile that I'm talking about, that's from Highway 13 all the way down to Diane Christensen's, you'll see that the highways are clean. There's another person up here that I've seen that we go down the road every spring and we pick up all the beer cans, the pop cans, the cigarette packs and everything else. We try to maintain a clean area, and not only us, but so the other residents. This is going to change when we get a resort in here. We know it. We don't want the crime. We don't want all the trespassing that we're going to get. I'm not going to step on someone else's toes about the hunting, because I too want the hunting for my purposes also. And if you're building cabins, now we have a real problem. Okay, I got 100 things here I can put down, but I'll be stepping on someone else's, and I'll let them have the floor so they can continue with it.
Thank you. Do we have someone else?
My name is Brian Henry. I'd like to say something.
Brian Henry, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
My brother and I own the property directly north of the proposed change. And we've had that property for 5 years. I am from the Dells. I am from the Dells originally, but I live down in West Dallas. My address is 1040 South 75th Street, West Dallas, Wisconsin. I'd like to say that I am from the Dells. My brother owns a property over on 11th Avenue, directly across from Terry Cook. We own together the 35.88 acres that are directly north of this proposal. I'd also like to say that this letter that I got from Adams was the first that I heard about any type of meeting about this, including the township. I also hunt the property, and my stand lies approximately 75 yards off my property line. Also, I have other stands out there, but my major concern is not just the hunting. If you look at the aerial map, you'll see that my land has many trails on it that I recreate on, walk on, ride the four-wheeler. And I have a great fear of people trespassing on my property and destroying the property that I'm trying to create out there. I have not seen the plans for the proposed cabins, but Terry Cook told me that they were 10 feet off the property line. And I am absolutely opposed to strangers coming on my property whenever they feel like it. I spent a lot of money on my property. I've been hunting there for many, many years. Larry Canard owned the property before I did, and he's allowed me to hunt all this time. And I bought the property with the intention of keeping it that way. I knew what the property land around me was zoned at, and I was okay with that. And he should know what the property was zoned at also before he bought the property. My opinion is he should maybe buy a piece of property that's already zoned for this. That's all I have to say.
Do we have
I'd
someone
like to
else that
step
wants to
in.
speak?
Yes, I could, please. My name's
Name?
Nate Messer. Yes. Good afternoon. I own the property, 1156 County Road K. It's 27 acres. It's 4 parcels to the west of the subject property. It also abuts a portion of Brian's property in the back. I also have a recreational camper that we use year round up there. And we're eventually, my wife and I are gonna build a retirement cabin up back in the back up there to just be away from everybody. And we have a lot of wildlife on our property and trails, and some of our trails are in very close proximity to Brian's trails at the back. And I'm also concerned about the people coming up there, snooping around off, they're taking a walk in the woods, ending up on somebody else's property. Oh, look at this trail. We're going to follow this trail, see where it goes. Now they're on my property because they've crossed over his property on his trails. And, and I've already had similar experiences with people from the subdivision to the west of me on camera from people visiting. I've had several people on the property that had on camera. They were kids, you know, and I didn't appear to have anything wrong with them, but I did catch them on camera trespassing on my property. In recent years, I have slowly been grooming the property, take care of the trees, trying to get everything back up to snuff there. It is a forested land. It's a productive forest land. It's zoned ag. I'd like to keep it that way. I don't really want any more development around me. I'm perfectly fine with the agriculture. That's one of the reasons I bought the property. Last year, in fact, I saw several pheasants, a bunch of woodcock birds that I haven't seen on the property in the 18 years that I've been coming up here. And, you know, I bought the guy I bought the property from, was a good friend of mine, 90 years old. And I promised him that I would keep the property. When I bought it from him, I'd keep it in its as close to natural state as I could, other than putting a cabin on there, which was what his wife always wanted to do. And unfortunately, health issues prevented them from ever doing that. So, but you can register my vote as a big no against this. It's really not something that I'm looking to have. I live down in Antioch and Lakeville, Illinois, on the chain of lakes. I'm not up there every weekend. I spend as much time as I can up there, but I come up there to get away from that kind of stuff. And I live in a
All right.
resort community down here, and I don't need it. Thank you.
Your 3 minutes is up, sir.
Thank you for my time.
Thank you. Is there someone else that wants to speak? Is there someone else that wants to speak?
No.
Is there someone else that wants to speak?
Yes. Stop screaming.
You need to state your name and address.
Cindy Schneer, 1144 County K. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm not very familiar with the Zoom, so I have questions though. I mean, I'm not for this either, but if this were to take place, I mean, he's planning on how many units going in? 11?
That's all right.
What's gonna happen to our wells? Are they gonna, you know what I mean? And who's gonna be monitoring the fires that they start in these fire pits? You know, none of these questions were answered by Jeremy when he, you know, dropped in unexpectedly. Who's liable for his guest? Are we? Some B&Bs, they have in the contract that if we have issues with them, we call the police and then it's us against their guests. So I don't know. As for now, I am against this. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
If there aren't any more comments, we'd like a chance to address.
Hold on. This is Matthew Platt.
Just wait.
Can
Trying
you hear
to
me?
find you.
Matthew
Yeah,
Platt.
what'd you say your name was?
Matthew Platt.
Okay.
Oh,
Where's your address, please?
3697 11th Avenue.
All right.
Adjacent. I have a property adjacent to this. First of all, I've owned this property for 27 years. I've been a Del Prairie resident for 49 years. I'm a big no against this for all the reasons that's already been stated by everybody else. This does not fit this residential area. This is not a resort area by any shape or fashion. This is a single family residential area. If they want to revamp that single home that is already there, more power to them. They have 9 acres, not 40, not 80 to make a resort. I've talked to other residents, the one directly adjacent to this property, Mary Alexander. She's adamantly against this. I'm her representative, and I'm representing myself, so that's 2 no votes. And I have not talked to one single person that is for this other than the people trying to get it to go through to make money. bottom line, it just doesn't fit this area. And I have two no votes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? All right, I will go back to, see if I can find you now. Jeremy, do you have a rebuttal?
Yeah, I do. And can we start with Robert and then I'll follow up? That's okay.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, just want to address as many of the concerns as I can. I want to emphasize that while there's a ton of negative comments, we want to address them as positively as we can. We believe this will be a positive asset to the area. The first thing is to make sure that the information is as clearly put as we can about what this project is and what it isn't. We are certainly requesting rezoning. We're requesting rezoning for small cabin units that will be put on this 9 acres, you know, and limited to our property, no one else's. And though that, you know, well beyond the setbacks that are called for in the district, that's been identified as the district to use based on a previously approved project in the county. So we really followed those standards and exceeded those standards to be able to try to put this idea into implementation that would account for some of the concerns we've heard today. And we do object to it being called a resort. We recognize that the county zoning probably doesn't address it perfectly. And, you know, maybe our project doesn't fit perfectly in the zoning either. We are not intending it to be a resort where it's a, hey, you know, vacation time, let's sprawl out, let's pull in, you know, all of our buddies, have a party. This is a much different, and Jeremy will explain that better than I can, but it's a much different atmosphere that he is setting up, that he is looking to achieve here. This is not going to be a low rent area, if that makes sense. It's going to be a high rent area and something that they are looking to achieve with specific standards that they're willing to commit to today to make this a part of the neighborhood that's an asset, not a detriment. There's a number of comments about accessibility and inaccessibility. Accessibility for hunters crossing property lines and stuff, we would never condone that, but we understand that there's hunting in the area for sure. We believe that these would be on our property. We know they'll be on our property. We wouldn't impact any other property, not to say the residents and the guests of this place are typically not going to be hunters. Jeremy can attest to that in his bylaws that he will provide. So we're not expecting folks to get off the campus, if you will, the property. What we are willing to do to back that up is to propose a fence to secure that. That is not out of the realm of possibility at all. It'd be something we can easily incorporate to the site plan to limit that cross traffic that where folks just don't know where the property lines are. We understand that. We could certainly add a fence. There was some comments about garbage, crime, and, you know, some issues related to the population side of it. And Jeremy is planning to manage this actively. This isn't something where folks are, you know, 1,000 miles away trying to manage an Airbnb from afar. They are 10 minutes from this site. It's where they live. This is a part of their, basically a part of their properties that they have, and it's their baby. This is something that they're going to flat out manage actively, and that they're not going to want any type of thing like this to get in any way, shape or form a reflection of them. So the type of negative comments, the fears and thoughts that folks had that I heard, that I wrote down, I would definitely say that I'm working with Jeremy would be absolutely resolved immediately, and he would prevent them from happening. But he will attend to it, he will manage it, and as a result, a lot of those issues wouldn't become issues as a result of that. Another property owner mentioned something about a 10-foot setback. We are proposing a 30-foot setback around all sides, and we're exceeding that in the front. We have actually the ability to set a building at 10 feet from the side lot line. Per the zoning, we would rather not do that. We would rather keep a buffer. We would like to keep that buffer wooded we'd like to keep all existing aspects of this property the same, except for the integration of very, very small cabin units into the landscape. Not on anyone else's property, not impacting anyone else's property, and that we wouldn't be entitled to on our property. But we certainly want to respect the interests of the neighbors. And then Jeremy did go out to try to meet with a number of them over the last several months to have these discussions, but we're having it now, and that's great. Hopefully we're able to address all of these comments and you know, have some understanding at least about what the proposal is and about what it isn't. We also understand the town noticed and held, we attended that hearing at the town level where we talked about the rezoning and the conditional use permit. Not sure if it's common or not. It wasn't attended with the level of attendance that we have today, but we're happy to hear from everybody. We wanted to get that at the town level too. But obviously taking the time to do that here. But again, Jeremy's bylaws is going to be very clear about no hunters, no fire pits. We don't want any fire hazard on this property. And I've advised Jeremy to not put in wood burning units in the units, just for the fact that that's just something that he doesn't want to have to worry about. They'll probably go with gas and things like that for that purpose. But as far as, folks out on the road or folks milling around the property, I think the types of rentals that Jeremy's looking at are folks that are going to want to get away, going to stay in their unit, or they're going to be out in the Dells or in the Adams County area recreating. That's the attraction is the ability to do those things while staying in a place like this and disconnecting from the rest of their busy lives. So a lot of the concerns that I heard, I believe, could be mitigated with an understanding, but at the same time, we recognize we probably didn't resolve all of the questions. We certainly are willing to do that. Not sure how much time we have, but we're welcome to do that. And Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, so Hocking Hills, Ohio is a good example. They have a lot of tiny cabins. There's neighbors nearby. They have not had any issues. I've reached out to them myself. We're not opposed if the site plan would permit moving these cabins in even further from the property if necessary. We could even possibly remove a couple of the cabins, not ideal, but originally the plan was closer to 15 to 20, and that just felt disrespectful. We really want to listen and be good neighbors. And we just want people to be as happy as possible with the situation. I know it's not, there's challenges, but we want to be, again, respectful to everybody and do the best we can. And whatever that takes, we'll do it to mitigate any concerns. Again, I'm willing to share my information if anybody feels to reach out to me at any point in time for anything. I'd be happy to address any concern at any time. So I think that's all I have at this time.
Thank you. Committee members, is there anybody from the committee that has questions? Jody?
I have a question in regards to timing. When the town board had their hearing on this, was there a timing issue that today's public participants couldn't attend and be heard? A lot of the times there's, a couple week cycle, and I'm just wondering if that is the case in this one.
Not to my knowledge. It's more an issue of people not following what's going on a town level. This is the official public hearing. This is what the state law requires us to notify. The normal process. This is where basically the only point in the process where you're guaranteed as a public member to have a say in it, or to share your thoughts on it. The town level is they publish it on their agenda. Who shows up to that? I don't know.
Our town board is a bunch of snakes.
The public portion of the application or the meeting is over. Please refrain from commenting. So that's how the process works. But this is the one guaranteed spot.
Any other questions for the committee?
Barb, this is Bruce. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Bruce.
Jeremy, do you propose this to be a 12-month-a-year operation?
You know, we're open to feedback. Ideally, yes, but traditionally, people don't come as often in the off season. So like hunting season, winter time, I would imagine maybe it would just be Saturdays. If that, our ones in the Dells hardly rent on the weekends this time of year at all. So I'm thinking it would mostly be summer. Although we'd hate to turn down business, if there was some, I'm open to the idea of blocking them during hunting season. Not ideal, but again, I want to be as respectful as I can to the people that are around us.
Okay, and is there a fence line around your property?
There is at the beginning, but we would be willing to extend that with whatever fence will be required, that they would not climb over that fence. A higher fence, barbed wire, electric, you know, whatever would be ideal. We just want to do what would make everybody happy. And I just know how I would feel if I was a neighbor. I would want someone to respect and listen to me. So if you have any suggestions, I'm open to that for sure.
All right, thank you.
Sir.
Any other questions from the committee?
Steve Stern again.
The public has had their chance. This is just the committee now asking questions. I'm sorry, sir.
Right.
Any more questions from the committee?
I have one
I'd like
more.
to
All right,
respond
Jody,
to
go
something
ahead.
that Dustin had said.
Jody Shapey again, District 7. My understanding is that the biggest concern is deer hunting or just basic hunting. So Jeremy, I'm sorry, could you go into more detail? You said that you would limit the number of people staying or totally eliminate people staying during hunting seasons. We have a large variety of hunting seasons up here.
No, I know. You know, I think when the neighbors are there, maybe we could coordinate that when they're going to be there. I'm again 100% open to. I'm not against blocking those dates during hunting. I know there's different seasons, but we could probably work that out. If that's the deal breaker, I'm always going to be flexible, 100%. So what the concerns are, I'm willing to work with anybody, 100%.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
Any other questions from the committee?
Yeah, Randy here. Jeremy, I'm just, when you say a fence, I'm a little bit worried that you need about 3,000 feet of fence to fence this whole property.
Yeah. Yes. What do you think do you think barbed wire would be sufficient? I mean, we could do, I know it's a big investment, but this isn't just for me, but for my kids' future as well. I'm not afraid to spend the money. Just don't tell my wife. Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I'm really not. I know it's expensive, but this is it's our family's dream, and we want other people to be able to have their dream too, our neighbors. So again, I'm open to listen. My phone number is 608-792-9214. If anybody needs me to say it again, I'd be happy to have any conversation and listen to any further concerns. And I can email that to somebody. I think the county probably has it. Do you want me to say it again? Okay, 608-792-9214. So yeah, I just want to be respectful to everybody. And if it works, awesome. If not, I mean, I understand the concern. We're just going to do the best we can. So.
Any other questions from the committee? It's in the committee's hands.
We're talking solely about the rezone at this point. I'll move
Yes,
to
no
approve the
conditions
rezone.
yet. This is just rezoning it.
I'll
I move
second
to
that.
approve the rezone.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Rocky and a second by Jody to approve the rezone. All right. I think we better do a roll call vote. Chuck,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Randy,
No.
Rick,
Yes.
Rocky,
Yes.
Bruce,
No.
myself, yes. Only yes, we have it. We have 5 yes, 2 no. All right, so that's just for the rezone. Now the conditions.
Well,
Go ahead. I'll go on. There you go, right.
All right, so what we'll do is, that was the application strictly for the rezoning that will have to still go to the county board for full approval on. Do you have a date?
Yeah, March 15th.
March 15th.
So
The next
everybody that lives
application,
here didn't mean a damn thing. We shouldn't even have called in. Bunch of horse shit.
that was the application for the rezoning. The next application is for the conditional use request under section 40537C to establish an 11-unit resort on property located in the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter, section 5, and northwest quarter of northeast quarter, section 8, township 14 north, range 6 east, lot 5, CSM 1519, town of Del Prairie. The address is 1136 County Road K. This application is for the specific operation of the proposed resort, mod cabin facility, however we'd like to term it. The first application was only for the rezoning, which did not give permission for this type of activity to occur. This application is for that purpose. All the same letters of or correspondence apply. In addition to one more from the highway commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the Good Life Vacation Rentals conditional use permit. The Adams County Highway Department has no concerns with the Good Life Vacation Rentals conditional use permit. Please consider incorporating regrading the driveway to the conditions so as to not deposit stormwater and sediment onto County K during rain events. Our office has responded to this location in the past to remove excessive debris from the roadway. There is no additional correspondence beyond what was in the last packet. Or, sorry, last hearing.
Okay. Pardon? I didn't see any when I looked. No, they didn't write any conditions on it. It just said conditional use for purposes of establishment of 11-unit short-term rental resort.
And they left reasons and conditions blank.
Okay. Do you have anything to add for conditions that you could see that would help your, help us to go forth with this? Jeremy or Robert?
Yeah, if it pleases the committee, I would respectfully suggest, based on the comments today, the following conditions that we're willing to honor. Like I said, many of them have been discussed today, and I know Jeremy has brought up as well. Jeremy, don't hesitate to cut me off if I've overspoken, but that we would provide a document that confirms that in the rentals, we would not allow hunting or hunters.
We can physically make them agree to that. They have to check the box to be able to do anything.
I'll come back to the fence. That we're submitting our site plan that was submitted last week, February 16th, 2020, no, excuse me, February 23rd, 2022 would be on record. For this project. Any changes to the site plan, we would be, any major changes to the site plan, we'd have to come back. But we're prepared to live with that. I will leave this to Jeremy about year-round operation. I'll let him come back to that. That we will address the driveway runoff issues directly with our stormwater management plan, which we plan to do as a part of the development. Which would, by the way, include any discharges off-site as well. And that we will not be allowing any fire pits on the exterior grounds, if you will, or by any unit owner on the property. Jeremy, do you want to address?
Does that mean that you're not going to have fire pits at all?
That's correct. Are you okay with that, Jeremy?
You know, I'm okay with it. It would be nice to have one central, but if that's the deal breaker, we don't need it.
Any other conditions that you are suggesting right now?
To me, just working with and being respectful to everybody in the area. If they have any concerns about the dates that they hunt, I would love to hear that. So that's all I can say right now without talking. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm open to suggestions, but you know, we would like to do it all year long, but again, I'm open to ideas.
Okay. I have 4 conditions that you've put on then. Fencing, no hunting, any changes to site plan, you will come back to the committee, and no fire pits at all.
Correct.
Anything else for the committee?
The driveway runoff will be managed appropriately and not cause a concern for the county highway. Per the commissioner's request.
Barb, did one of us actually make a motion to put the fencing on?
They said they were going to.
Oh,
We'll
I didn't hear that.
do all the. Am I muted? They said they would do fencing around it. And that's one of the conditions that they were gonna put on. They're asking that they would add, put that on. We'll make a motion on all of them together.
No, I'm asking, I did not hear him say that they said, they asked for suggestion. And I don't know how practical it is to run 3,000 feet of fence if they delineate the property line. I guess I'm just asking.
Jeremy, do you want to clarify that?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I've never run barbed wire before, but I think to me that seems like it would be a solution that would be economical and maybe solve the problem. No, you don't think so?
No.
No?
I don't know.
I'd like to say something about that if that's possible.
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, I've had the property for approximately 5 years. And I've spent a lot of time removing barbed wire fence because it's dangerous.
Right.
It's one thing to have it up for cattle. It's one thing to have it up for horses. But when somebody cuts their leg on something rusty,
Mm-hmm.
and I've done it before, I used to work farms too. It's not a good thing. And when it comes to being close or being on my property, if I see it, I try to remove it. And you're proposing putting up 3,000 feet of barbed wire fence, something that's more dangerous than not having a fence there to begin with.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they're going to come to me and say it's my fault because it might be on my property. They might assume it's on my property. and they're gonna come to me and sue me and not you.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't want barbed wire anywhere around my property. I want it gone. And that's what I've
Okay.
been trying to do in the last 5 years.
Got it. We're open to suggestions too. I just want to make sure that, nobody's coming onto your property. So whatever that takes, I think
Well,
we're
if you
willing.
look at the satellite images, the first thing people are gonna do is they're gonna look to see where they're at.
Mhm.
They're gonna be located. They're gonna look directly north and see all my trails on my property. And they're gonna say, oh, well, we can just go walk over there. And if you've never had property, you don't know how frustrating it is to have trespassers on your property. Whether they're there to destroy things or not, it's a very frustrating thing to have.
So what are your
And-
thoughts? Oh, sorry.
At this point, hold on a second. At this point, the public comment portion is not open. We will come back to that before any motions or votes are taken.
Okay.
Right now, the committee is discussing conditions with the applicant, and we can address those during the public comment portion.
Barb, just have on there delineate property lines, however they work it out.
All right, any other questions? Jody?
Okay, so I have some notes. Did we discuss the number of individuals permitted to stay per unit? Can we address that?
Rob, are
That's
you
one.
there?
Hold on one sec. Limitations on fires, music, etc. I know we just said no fires, but it would be nice they asked for one in a common area. I know they have a proposed common area. I guess I'd like to hear what the purpose of that common area is and what uses are going to be allowed in that common area. Are temporary structures such as tents allowed? And if so, how many per proposed site? And activities consistent with neighbors. Last thing we want is conflict from the expected new use. Potential issue that I am looking at is handicapped access. We have low impact that doesn't always go along with handicapped access. And square foot size of structures is, we have a certain square footage that we ask for or not? No, in this case, no.
On the purchase or on the building of a single family dwelling, yes, 720 square feet and a minimum of 24, where you can fit a 24-foot by 24-foot square in there. In a setting like this, because it's part of a quote unquote resort, the cabins can be basically whatever size the committee authorizes. If you don't want them under 720, that would be a condition. You would have to modify. You would put the condition on that all of them have to be 720, and then the plan would have to be updated.
So I guess I want to know what the rest of the committee feels about that then.
I'm with Jody on that. I think we ought to state a minimum size of 720 feet of living space in each unit, nothing smaller than 720. I've got another thing, and I know it was never brought up, but I'd say no camping units put in. I can understand the tent, but as far as pull type or drive type campers would not be allowed on the property.
This is
First of all,
Robert.
can we ask if, I can find man's name again? Robert or Jeremy?
Yeah, I would love to.
Can you address that common area?
You bet. I would love to. And then the other five points of concern that were brought up as well. The common area is an area that's designated for if there's occupancy of a certain level, Jeremy and his management staff would coordinate a potential movie night for the tenants. And it would be an outdoor setting, but with the treehouse seating, very secondary and accessory type use feel, but no major structures. But there also is the thought that there would be a sauna option out there for guests, and like a swing set type, not like a swing, not necessarily a kid's playground area, but a swing for couples and things like that. That's the kind of feel that they're looking for. They're not looking for any kind of water things or anything like that, but low intensity, enclosed. Or the one thing that would be outside would be that outdoor movie theater for the guests. That's a brief description of the common area. The 5 points that I want to cover that were brought up as potential items to discuss would be the number of guests per unit, whether tents would be allowed, handicap accessible access, the square foot size of each unit, and then the potential for no campers or campers. I'll address them one at a time. We're perfectly comfortable limiting the numbers per unit to 2 or 3. I think, Jeremy, we've talked about no groups, pretty much on any circumstances whatsoever. And I'm thinking that, Jeremy, we've also talked about not allowing common interest parties, like, so a couple over here and a couple over there and a couple over here. I think you said something about that as well. Basically,
Right.
No parties.
Nobody's going to rent out. We're not going to allow them to rent out every cabin. There's no way.
Right. So we would have no problem to say 3 or 4, but certainly 3. 2 might be a little low, but we would be able to talk about that, consider that for some of the smaller units. Again, we would like to come back to that unit size in a second, but we do not want any tents on this site. That will be expressly prohibited in the documents that folks will agree to when they come on site. Handicap accessibility is a great point. And I've thought about that. The existing house that will be converted to a cabin already meets the requirements, but it has a handicap accessible entrance at this time and would be designated as one handicap accessible unit, at least one. And that would, in my opinion, make the site compliant, providing at least one unit in this case. And there may be other sites that would be suitable. Until we get into the design, I can't say comfortably whether that'll occur or not, but we know the existing cabin will be able to suit a portion of that building, of course, is handicap accessible, not the entire building. But it would be able to suit a resident, or excuse me, a patron. As far as the square foot size, Dustin and I have talked about that in the past, with the designation of it being a resort, which we kind of were a little like, we don't like that name resort, but at the same time, we understand that comes with the transient nature of these uses. We were hoping with that designation that we would also be able to enjoy a lesser square footage, knowing that they would never become single family homes. And, if we were able to do that, we would be able to do the treehouse concept and some of the A-frame concepts that are lesser than 720 square feet. Or the 24 by 24 minimum dimensions that you have in your ordinance. We would request that as a part of this plan, and we went ahead and showed that on the site plan, so you have an idea of what we're proposing, where those units would be located, and we would commit to that in our site plan. Unless we decide to change the site plan, we would come back then. We'd end up doing this all over again, or at least administratively, there'd be an opportunity to address some issues, but. So that is part of our plan right now, is to have, I think, 3 units that are below the 720, and they would be in that 400-ish square footage. Because again, we're thinking of this as not a single family home, as a transient use that's managed. And the last comment was about campers. We would absolutely 100% commit and would require patrons and to basically have no camping, no outdoor stays of any kind on this property. Everything will be inside. except for the common area, but the common area isn't a principal area. It's more of an accessory. And we don't want RVs, we don't want campers, we don't want tents. And I think folks that are going to stay in these units are going to look to stay in the units. They're sort of minimal units. So that sort of fits with that theme. They're getting what they need, no more. And they sort of know that going in. So that's how we would address those comments.
Okay, Jody, what do you think about going down to 400 so they don't become one-family rentals? Because you said 750 square feet.
Well, 720, I think, is what we have for single family dwellings. I'm fine because I can't imagine a treehouse being anything too large. So the 400 square feet, if I heard Robert and Jeremy correctly, was approximately 400 square feet. You're muted, Robert.
So sorry about that. Yeah, I gave a range on the site plan. So 300 to 500 square feet.
So I don't know if we get into particulars, tree houses, 300 to 500 feet, any kind of ground dwelling. I mean, I would love input as to what, I'm fine with going lower than 720.
Okay.
But I don't know the magic number.
Do you
So
want to put three, whatever it was, I don't know which one it was on.
So
Did
what
you
we're
want
looking for is that if the commission was so inclined that they would approve the site plan as submitted, and we would observe the square footage that we've listed as minimums and just live by that plan, unless we decide to change it.
Well, that's what, but they live by their site plan. If they want to change it, they have to come back. And that would prominently specify the cabin size. Okay. So we can take that off. Any other questions? Any other questions, committee?
guess I want to address that common area. Is someone not muted? I'm muted or I'm not muted? Okay. Just curious, you know, camping and getting away and going out to nature and stuff. I don't know. I think of a fire pit. So could we allow a fire pit in the common area? I'm putting it out there.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate the consideration. We're really wanting to control that as much as possible with that potential. And I think the idea is to have something there, but to have it be gas service, you know, that can be literally turned on and turned off with timers and automatic switches that folks don't have to worry about. And there's some ability to control.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I will.
You know, I also wanted to address something else that Jeremy Ringdell had mentioned. No hunters. You'll have people staying at your resort, for lack of a better word, that are going to go out and hunt on state land. So I don't think it's the no hunters. I think it's no hunting that we should stress. Okay.
Yep, whatever condition you put on there, we'll respect that.
And you're going to work with the neighbors to coordinate so that you're not open during the main hunting season where, like, deer hunting that 1 week?
I think that's an important, I think that's an important conversation to have.
Barb?
Yes.
Yes.
I think every other one of these we've done, whether it be a campground or a resort, we have set a date somehow on it. We've all agreed to a date. I don't think it should be left up to them. I
Okay.
mean, they can put their input in a little while here, but I think we should come up with a solid date. Like the campgrounds are October 15th to whatever. I can't remember, Dusty.
Usually, a lot of times it's December 1st to April 15th they're closed. But you could go November 1st, April 15th to make sure it's closed during at least the gun deer season. And I do agree with Randy that leaving it up to them discussing it with the neighbors is something unenforceable for our office,
Okay.
whereas actual dates.
Look, I'm still muted. No, any other?
I think if we're focused on the no hunting, I would, instead of saying April to whatever, I would just focus on that 2-week hunting span for deer hunting,
That would be wonderful.
would be my suggestion.
I'm kind of in the boat with Jody, because you're gonna have people up here that want to cross-country ski and go to Cascade Mountain. I mean, and ice fish. So to put that long period in there would be a bad thing. I kind of think the gentleman we spoke to today is more of the hunting, deer hunting, gun season. But if we could put that in there, that short period, and then their neighbors said, well, could you look at this longer? Then it's the onus is on Jeremy to make good on his promise also to help regulate that. At least then we know those people have that season to themselves. So like November 15th to December 4th, because you know how it kind of fluctuates in there, you could put a date in there like that, and then you're going to cover all of deer season. That would be where I'm at.
Thank you.
Yeah, we agree with that for sure.
Through December, would you say September 4th or 5th?
Why don't we get some input from the public?
All right, we can open it up to the public. No, I'm not muted. And again, the same rules apply. You need to say your name and your address, and you'll be only limited to 3 minutes.
Hi, Steve Stern again. I'm gonna be the neighbor right next door to this, and my concern and problem is there will be no deer coming through there with all the traffic. Also, as far as shooting, you got to remember there's bullets flying all around that area, and that concerns me too. So with all the cabins to my right, that means I can only shoot towards the back of my property. That's a big concern of mine.
Did you understand that they're going to close it from November 15th to December 4th?
That's fine. There's still buildings all the way back to the back. I'm right alongside of them. So now I got all buildings on the side of me. And my concern is too, the deer always come from the east across to the west. And if there's cabins and all sorts of construction all the way across there, them deer are not coming by me anymore. I bought this property to hunt. And now they're blocking it all off. Plus I'm, what, 100, 200 feet from a cabin all the way across my property line? It's ridiculous. It's terrible.
Any other comments from the public?
My name's Bart Boyd. I live at 1144 County K. The question was never answered about what is that going to do to the neighbor's well system? is that gonna drain ours?
This is Robert. If it's all right, I can respond.
You can respond at the end of the public comment portion.
Any other concerns from the public?
I had Nate Messer, 1156 County K. I had a couple of question and a couple of comments. Question is, I'm new at your procedures up here because I'm not a full-time resident up there at this point in time. But I seem to be having problems locating the documents for the meeting that were filed and that are available publicly. If somebody at some point in time can link me to those somewhere on your site, on where they're at, so I can take a look at those. And for a comment, as far as fencing off properties, I don't believe in putting fences up. I try not to have any fences up at my property. I have some old farm fences there that I try to, when they go down, I just take them out and don't repair them, because I believe in neighbors being neighbors and not trespassing on other people's property. Unfortunately, when you have a situation like this, and we currently have the same type of situation happening in our unincorporated county down here with the Airbnbs. They're trying to pass or not pass the allowing of Airbnbs down here now. And it's a big issue even down here in a resort type area. But the people that are coming in here, I want to know what you're going to do to ensure that these people understand that the neighboring properties are private residences, and at no way, shape, or form are they to trespass, onto these properties and or harass wildlife, and or if you're going to do this, I want some assurances that it's fine and dandy. You're saying you want to be neighborly and you want to do all this now, but I didn't get any notices. I live outside the 300-foot limit to this, but because the properties here are 700 feet wide, mine's 660 feet wide. So if I was doing something like this, neither one of my neighbors technically would even get a notice, because they live outside of a 300-foot range from the property. I'm not sure what they're, down here, everybody within a quarter mile gets a public notice mailed to them if something's going on. And the property is required to put a public notice in front of the property and a sign out on the highway visible from the highway. So I'm just a little bit upset that I didn't get a notice, because I am an adjoining landowner. I'm within a distance that I should have been notified that something was going on from the get-go. Especially because you people up there know that there are residents that live there year round, and there's people that own property that don't live there year round that have interest in those. So
Nate, we have
What's
to
that?
cut you now. Your
that's fine.
minutes are
Thank
up.
you for my time. Thank you for my time.
I can address that.
Yeah.
You did ask about the website. If you go to the county's website, which is www.co.adams.wi. All right. If you scroll to about halfway down, you'll see a calendar. There are other ways to get to it, but the easiest is there's a calendar right in the middle with all the meetings.
Okay.
On today's date, you'll see planning and zoning. Click on there. There's a link that says agenda. This is the same agenda that was mailed to all the neighbors and published in the paper. You can bring that up and you can click on each heading for each application. It has all the materials that the committee has available.
Okay, thank you. I got that.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, we're on public comments. Any other questions from the public?
Can you hear me now?
are, yes,
Hello?
state your name, please.
Matthew Platt, 3697 Levinson Avenue. Joining property with this travesty that's going on right now. And I want to know the 5 of you that voted yes and the dozen of us that say no that live here, how you come to a yes vote. That's my question. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
On this application, they have not voted yet. Those matters can be brought up at a different meeting.
We'll see. I highly doubt they're going to vote a different way from the sounds of it. Not right. You guys know it's not right. I can't believe you're voting the way you're voting. For $1.
We have not, we have not voted on any conditions. Yeah.
I understand that, but if Jeremy wants to bring his family out here and build a 2,000 square foot home, we welcome him. Not what he's got going on now. It's not a fit for this area. I'd still like a response on the 5 that voted previously. If we get another chance to speak, I'd like another vote on why you guys vote yes on this. I'm done.
Any other questions from the public?
I'd like to make a comment if that's possible.
Yes, state your name, please. Name and address, please. Whoever just spoke, we need your name and address. Did you know who it was?
I think it was
Thank you,
Brian
Brian.
Henry.
Mr. Henry, was it you speaking? You're muted. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I'd like to go back to the notifications that we did or did not get on this initial vote during the township meeting. My brother lives directly across from Terry Cook, directly. And so does Matt Platt. And we never received any kind of notification from the township or him to even come knock on my door. I also have a wood shop in the Dells area that is directly across from his laundromat. Now, you can say he did all the due diligence that he needed to do. That's fine. But as a neighbor and as a human being, he could have come and knocked on my door.
We lost you again, sir. Mr. Henry, we still can't hear you. Can you go back to mute and then speak again? Turn it back off. See if that would help.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that again. Like I said, Terry never came over, let us know about anything that was going on. And I think
We lost you again.
as a representative of,
Now can you try?
hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. We seem to have lost him completely now.
Try it out, Brian.
Brian, can you hear us? I don't know what to tell him.
You might be able to call in, give them that option.
Can you call it in? At 626-6799.
He's off the call. Let's move on to the next person, and if he gets back on, we will come back to him.
Anybody else that wants to?
Where is he?
He's connected. He's way back at the end now. Brian, are you back on? Brian?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I had to exit and re-enter. I'm sorry about that, folks. I'd like to continue saying that Terry never notified us of anything, even though he's our neighbors. And I think it would have been very appropriate for him to come and discuss this matter with us, seeing as that we are neighbors and we've been friendly for many, many years. And I try to get along with all my neighbors, but as a town representative, he did not do his due diligence to making sure that we knew about any of this that was going on. Also, I had a few other comments, but in the midst of this, I kind of lost my track. So if you could come back to me, that'd be great.
All right. Is there anyone else that wants to speak from the public? Anyone else that wants to speak from the public? Okay, we want Jeremy, would you or Robert want to answer some of these questions?
You bet. Thank you. I'll go ahead. And so there was a comment about deer movement and things like that. And I just want to emphasize that our first phases are going to be toward the south of the property as as we work into the total expense. And so that the continued tracks back there, if we don't put a fence up, the deer travel would be, continued back there. But as another committee member correctly pointed out, I think our intention is to not necessarily disallow hunters to stay, but certainly no hunting on this property. So those are our commitments. There was a question, and a good one, about the wells and impact to the area wells. The overall proposal, of course, there is an existing well out there now for the house. The proposal would require a new well to be built because that existing well would not provide service to multiple units. A new well would need to be built of adequate size and with a pressure tank and things like that would fit a multi-use like this. But it would be something where the existing well would then be decommissioned and put online with the one single well that would be built for the property. That well would be sized for the type of use that's proposed. Certainly not every house running at all hours, but certainly more of a moderated use. That's how it's typically designed. And therefore we would expect I haven't done the research as far as how deep that well would be and how big it would be, but it would be something that would be a single well and would be in a location more central to the property for serviceability purposes. And then that would be something that would be away from the property lines and then minimizing the impact to adjoining properties. That's our quick take without getting into a lot of design. We just haven't gotten to that point yet. There have been a couple of comments about dissemination of documents. We're happy to, separately, obviously it's not something that we can condition here, but we're happy to go through any of the documents with anyone, landowner or committee member at any time. So we're happy to do that. We want that information out there. Jeremy took the time and paid for the information to be provided so that there weren't any, that we try to minimize questions to the extent available. We're certainly happy to answer and put together any additional information that you might need. Certainly one thing that I could see that would be needed after this meeting would be his document that folks would sign that when they come on board, these are the rules. I think that should be something that we should provide up front as a part of this approval, provided after, very soon after. I can't speak to the notifications and some of those questions, but we did make an effort to follow the process as it's been outlined to us. It's a very common process across the state with town and county zoning matters. But I guess I can't speak to that. I know, Jeremy, though, we specifically did our due diligence to try to find property owner information of the adjoining properties in the area. We perhaps didn't go out as far as some of the input that we're getting. I'm not exactly sure on all the addresses, but we did note that there were some out of the area residents and property owners. And there's just lack of information off of the information that we were able to get just off the websites and things that we could get it. I think that's where Jeremy went to, door to door to try to make contact with folks face to face prior to these meetings. So we certainly didn't want to exclude anyone. It feels like maybe there was, but there's a limit to that ability to get out and talk to everybody and not knowing who is available, who isn't, and when. But we certainly don't want to cut that off. We certainly want to open those lines of communication up going forward. And then to get back to a question that we originally raised about the fence, from a design standpoint, we look at the concerns, we look at the fact that people can just walk across right now with nothing. I even had a hard time finding the property line when I walked the property. I think it's important that something is marked. I think that, the level of fence, obviously we could go to the deep end and put a chain link fence, a 6-foot chain link fence, or we could go to a 6-foot wood, privacy screening type fence of some nature. But ultimately, tree is going to fall on it, or there's going to be, gaps with that as well. And I think it's probably a little bit of a atomic bomb in a gnat situation. What we really want to do, what Jeremy's intentions are, is to control his property to the maximum extent possible by governing it through the regulations and then administering that through. He doesn't want people trespassing. He's prepared to back that up. I mean, if it's a split rail fence or something that would fit in with the landscape, that would at least mark the property line, that could easily be repaired if a tree fell on it or a limb, or a deer crossed over, maybe clipped one of it and it's sitting there, half a fence. We could easily be addressed without a major deal. Now that's still at a substantial expense, but I think he's prepared to do something like that. In addition to that, we would sign the property at whatever frequency is deemed appropriate. Certainly at each unit, at a minimum, that each unit, there's a sign in the unit and there's a sign on the property line that talks about, a no trespassing or whatever appropriate sign is required, whatever the neighbors are comfortable with in that regard. And I think Jeremy even talked about putting cameras up because, again, he doesn't want any problems. He really doesn't want any of these issues. And, obviously folks that get bad ratings on these types of stays don't get stays anymore. So and his ability to control that is through cameras. So that is something he's prepared to do to keep his property secure both ways, really. And certainly from the property going out to other properties would be regulated that way to the maximum extent that Jeremy can. So that's something that we're willing to do as a result of this condition.
Thank you. Just thinking, how about instead of fencing completely around, marking the corners somehow, and then having a sign every, I would even go 50 feet. 100 feet.
Typically, we put on 100. That's only 30 yards.
Okay, so mark the corners. I don't know if it's a post with, split rail coming down, or if you want to do it any other way, but mark corners. And then property line fence, a sign every 100 feet.
That sounds very good to us for the entire property.
Okay, I'm going to read the conditions that we've got so far. And you must remember, these will not be valid until you go before the county board and it gets approved at the county level. All right, we have fencing, mark the corners, and a sign every 100 feet. No hunting on property.
Yes.
3, any changes to site plan, you have to come back to the committee. 4, no fire pits except a gas operated one in the common area.
Yes.
5, driveway runoff will be taken care of per highway department, county highway department does it problems.
Yes.
6, no camping units and no tents. 7, no more than, what was it, 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 people per unit? 3 to 4 people per unit. 5, 1 handicapped accessible building. And again, it's only valid if the county approves the rezone. Is there anything else that we need to do?
Barbara had one other.
Yes, go ahead.
I sent it out to everyone on a chat. Do we need to address pets?
I gotta find it, chat one. Oh, address pets, she was wondering.
Can I say something quick?
Yes, Jeremy?
We don't allow them in any of our existing units and we wouldn't want to do it here.
Okay, so we'll take that as a condition then,
Okay,
no pets.
okay.
And did I also hear prior
No
to
hunting was December 15th through, November 15th through December 4th. They weren't gonna be open.
Yes, I agree there. Yep, that's what we were talking.
All right, Jeremy, the committee is discussing these. We'll get back to you. No hunting during that time, or they're closed during that time?
They're gonna be, was it closed? Closed, okay,
No hunting ever.
ever. And then closed from November 15th through December 4th for the neighbors hunting area.
Well, for,
Yep.
yeah.
Barb, I've got a question.
Yes.
We've talked a lot about no hunting, but what about shooting other than that?
No hunting on their ground.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is, can they shoot firearms on their property other than that? Target practice, that kind of stuff.
Jeremy said no. Okay, we have to do that at condition.
Thank you.
No hunting or shooting.
No hunting or shooting, no firearms.
That works.
No hunting or shooting.
Can I ask one or make one suggestion or ask one question?
Who is this?
Nate Messer.
Yes, one question.
Is it, if this goes through, what's gonna stop if a property neighboring this goes up for sale and expansion of this? Is the county board and the township prepared to put in a moratorium on this within a mile radius of this, because so that we don't end up with in the future a high density resort? If the neighboring property, somebody dies, they sell the property, that somebody else buys this, and now we've got 2 of these things in there.
I can address that. Any expansion or new operations would require coming back through the same process, public hearing. Boards change, they are elected officials. But as far as moratorium, no. But the properties in the area are not currently zoned correctly for this. So even if the neighbor decides to sell, that property is zoned something different, and they would have to go back through a public hearing process.
Doesn't seem to be real hard to do.
Okay. Now that we have the conditions, and we included no pets on there, no hunting or no shooting on the property, and they will be closed November 15th through December 4th. Any other conditions? Okay, it's up to the committee.
You will need a motion and a vote to add those conditions to the application.
Mhm. A second? Rick, a second? I better say the names first. Rocky did the first. And Rick the second. All right, now we're just voting on the conditions. Then we'll vote on adding them to the conditional use. No, is that what you do?
Right now, you're approving adding these conditions to the application.
Okay,
The next step will be voting on, if conditions pass, voting on the application with the attached conditions.
okay. All right, now we're, whatever he said. No, we're going to vote on these conditions. Okay, everyone that is in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we're going to vote on adding these conditions to the conditional use. No?
Just did.
Okay, so we're done.
Now you're voting on the application itself with those conditions attached.
Okay. I'll get this straight when I retire.
Roll call
All right,
vote,
now we're,
please.
now
Let's
we're
have a roll
voting
call vote.
on. Okay. we
Let's
can do
have a,
roll call
let's
vote.
have a roll call vote.
That would be up to the committee whether they can do that. The public should not be participating right now.
I don't even know who that was.
I didn't vote. I just want a roll call vote.
All right, there's a motion to approve the conditional use with conditions.
I'll make the motion to approve the conditional use permit.
With attached conditions.
All right, we need a second.
I'll second it.
Jody, second. All right, roll call vote. Chuck?
No.
Jody?
Yes.
Randy?
No.
Rick? Rick?
Yes.
Rocky? Rocky?
Yes.
Bruce? Bruce?
No.
And I will be a yes.
Be what?
Yes. So we have 4 yes, 3 no. Okay, this will go before the county board.
No, just the rezone.
Just the rezone, but this is not in force unless they go until the county board meeting. Okay, I gotta get back on. All right. Thank you very much. Next, public hearing.
The next application is for Parker Lindner. Rezoning request of a portion of 2 parcels, 37.21 acres from A135 exclusive ag with farmland preservation overlay to A115 exclusive ag with farmland preservation overlay on property located in the northwest quarter, southwest quarter, and the southwest quarter, section 35, township 14 north, range 7 east, town of New Haven, Adams County, Wisconsin, 279 State Road 23. There is I did receive correspondence from the highway department. They did not have any concerns. They did want to note that the control access or the access control is by the state DOT. I received a town participation form from the town of New Haven. They do not object to the request. Um, There was the drawing set up or provided. I don't know if everybody, it's not super straightforward. I do believe Parker is on the hearing today. They purchased just under 80 acres, and Linder or Parker would like to farm a good chunk of it. He does not really need the building, the house, or the woods in the back. So what they're proposing to do is create one lot that encompasses the house and the buildings up by the road, and then the about 14 acres worth of woods in the back. Create one lot with that. It'll be 17.8 acres total. They are doing it as, or proposing as A3. The portion to the east that is all ag field will be its own parcel, and that is A115 is what they're proposing there. It will be approximately 20 acres in size. The portion to the west is not actually part of the application, but informational wise, it's a 39 acre piece that's left over, and that will be staying the A135. And all the stuff A1 is the primary reason for this application is they're going to continue to farm that and utilize the other or sell off the other portion differently. Parker, was there anything I missed there? Did you want to weigh in?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, I mean, you kind of talked it over pretty good or whatever. I bought the land with just basically the intentions of farming it. I really have no use for the house or the woods. So, to be responsible financially, I'd like to, sell that off.
I do need to make one correction. The portion of the house in the woods is not going to A3, it's going to A115. That was what the publication stated. The drawing was the old version. That was the original plan, but it's actually all going to A115, which would be a 15 acre minimum lot size, which would preclude him pretty much from redividing that any further.
Okay, committee, do you have any questions of Mr. Parker? Or Parker Linder? Sorry. And committee, do you have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak? Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak? Committee, it's in your hands. We have a motion by Rick to send this on for rezoning to the county. A second?
I'll second it.
Randy, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, this will go on to the county on March 15th at 6 o'clock. All right, the next
All right, that sounds good.
rezone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is for Greg Farrell. It's a conditional use request under section 40558A2 to erect an advertising sign on property located in the northwest quarter, southwest quarter, section 29, township 17 north, range 6 east, town of Adams. The address is 2378. Mr. Farrell, I believe I did see him on the line. He is an owner of a business in town, and there is a he put a billboard advertising his own business at his that is your residence, right, Greg?
He owns the property, Dustin, but he doesn't live there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Town Board of Adams does not object to the request. And that was at their meeting on January 18th, 2022. The only correspondence I received in the matter was from, oh, was from a Loretta Mitchell. She is a neighbor and she has no complaints about the request, or no complaints on the request. And I believe there is, you guys have the information as far as what the sign looks like and where it's located.
And because it's conditional use, we can.
You're muted.
Because it's conditional use, we can state what he says and make it no more than 4 by 8. And it is to be designed professionally and manufactured. And it is to be in the southwest corner of the property. Those could be our conditions. So he can't change them.
You can place those as a condition, or say the condition is the sign that is presented is the one that's approved, because it's already out there.
Okay.
And that's the picture of it.
May I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Go ahead, Bruce. You go first.
Doesn't the code already state if we okay the sign, it already states the size and the height, setback, that kind of stuff?
Yes, it does address a lot of that portion. At this point, the application is for the sign that's already there. I think that's what you guys would be approving. If you want to change it, put in a new location, he would have to come back to the committee.
Jody?
Can we also add on that if the business goes out of business, that sign is removed?
Mm-hmm. Okay, and other conditions? All right, we're doing the conditions for the sign that is already there, and it is to state the size and where it is according to his letter that he sent us. And we're adding one more condition, that if he goes out of business, the sign must be removed. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to add? Anything else? Yes.
Do we need to address lighting at all? I can't remember. I thought I've seen some signs that have the backlighting up to it.
All right, the ordinance does address lighting. And I guess, again, my thought is you're approving exactly what's there. So if there wasn't lights, which I don't think there is.
There's no lights. I don't plan on putting lights there.
So because they're not here and that's what, or they're not there now and that's what you're approving is what's there now, that's not an option.
And Mr. Farrell, you agree that if you go out of business, the sign must be removed?
Yeah, I'll put it in your yard, Barb.
No, thanks. No, thanks.
Definitely, I'll be.
I already have one sign there.
If you find me a buyer, I will gladly take the sign down. No, just
Okay.
appreciate you guys' time.
Any other questions? Any other conditions? It's in the committee's hands then.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Jody, a second from.
Do we have to approve the conditions first?
For these conditions, yes.
Okay, we're voting on the conditions.
Are you caught up with us? Okay, all right, how many in favor? Just the conditions? Against? All right, the conditions passed. Now we have to vote on the conditional use with those conditions. A motion. Rocky makes a motion,
Second.
Jody seconds. Now this vote will be for the conditional use with those conditions attached. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and once Dusty gets back here, we'll go on to the next public hearing.
The next application is for the Swan Barn Door. This is a rezoning request of a parcel 13.45 acres from A3 Secondary Ag to B1 Rural Business District on property located in the southwest quarter of the Southwest Quarter, Section 34, Township 14 North, Range 6 East, Town of Del Prairie. The property fronts River Road. The Town of Del Prairie met on this last night, and they did not object to the request. They said they felt it fits the rural business portion of the future town use plan. There was a couple of other items that were added late when we received that. I'm not sure what it's for because it's not really part of the rezone request. It looks like maybe future plans for, I'll let them explain that. As far as other correspondence, I did not receive any. And I do see that Paul and Carrie are on if they would like to explain the process or what's going on.
Who's speaking?
Carrie?
Well, yeah. Hi, can you guys hear us? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, our intentions are to build cabins on the parcel for there's just a need. We have a lot of out-of-town guests that come to the Dells for our wedding venue, and so it would just fit would be a good fit for us. They're looking for lodging that they can stay together. I mean, we do own a condo at Chula, and we've gotten a lot of comments that when they do wedding blocks, you know, they might book 70 or 80 rooms or something, but they'll spread them all out. They intentionally is what I think is because they gather in like the restaurant area or something instead of having a gathering together. So it would actually fit kind of our clientele base is having cabins. Unlike the previous party who was speaking for a while there, our intentions are usually to book out the whole thing to like a family. So one uncle might be next. I mean, just so families get together and they're close to each other and can spend the weekend not only seeing one of their relatives get married, but having the ability to share time together and stuff. And in a real wooded setting, kind of like our barn, we try to save every tree that we can. And that's kind of our intention here. It's very heavily wooded, and we want to keep that kind of theme. Not here.
Committee, do you have any questions?
I do.
All right, Jody?
What I saw before me was a gravel road for a future wedding ceremony site.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about cabins. Does anyone want to illuminate me on this one?
Yeah, I could.
I guess I can address part of that is that the request is to rezone the property to B1. Overnight lodging, hotels, motels, resort cabins are a permitted use. The road into the future wedding site or the other access would be a permitted use as well. When you rezone it to B1, those are all things that are on the table now. Regardless of what they tell you today, as far as this is what we want to do, any permitted use in B1 could go in there tomorrow, if approved.
So the town was aware that there are future cabins.
My understanding is they were the ones that instructed Paul and Carrie to make sure that they get us that updated drawing. Is that correct, Paul or Carrie?
Yeah.
And I actually emailed it to Lauren today. She was going to get it to you all.
We can't hear you.
I said I emailed it to Lauren Taft today and she confirmed that she received it and was going to get it to all of you.
They have it.
Yeah, no, I think what you're referring to is our original, we do have a commercial property just north of there that connects in the rear. These two properties, this parcel was bought at a different time more recently. And our ceremony there, it's pretty, for lack of a better word. That was our original intentions, and we're proceeding with that on not this parcel, but the parcel just north. That, which is, if you can see this map here, it is now commercial. Oh, I'm sorry. So it only connects in the rear. So that would be, if you were to do a meandering way around to get to that ceremony site, it's real bluffy back there. The cliffs almost, for lack of a better word. You can access it back here. So our thought was, we'd like to start promoting that, and we would even like to get into this property and come around, but that was not enough. The road that we would have used to get there would have also been for cabins later, but we just thought, one step at a time. So, but when we applied for that, we were informed that it would not be enough needed to get a zoning change with just the road there, because the first thing that's going in, even when the cabins go in, is the road. And so we thought, well, we'll just go for the road. It would get the zoning change with that. But with the cabins, we'll move forward with that. I mean, we've been in contact with our bank, and there's a lot involved, even all the plans for the cabins and septic designs and stuff like that. But before we proceed with that, it's our first step is to see if we can, so that's where we're at. And I'm a timber framer by trade, and I plan to do some not real large, like when you're talking 720, our plan is about 576 square feet, which is 24 by 24, but they will be timber framed, which kind of adds a even more rustic, unique look to what we're trying to do.
I don't know how well anybody could see the map that he showed. Well, I'm gonna share my screen and I can. You still haven't enabled it?
Okay, you got it.
Okay, we're going to share my screen. Right.
She's trying to figure it out.
Make him a co-host. Make him a co-host.
Rich will help you.
Just make him a co-host. Go ahead.
All better? Then I hit the wrong button. All right, so the property in question here is this 8-852 towards the bottom of the screen, right in the middle. The wedding site is this area, is that correct?
No, our barn location or our proposed
that one.
Yep.
The wedding site that you were talking about is this area.
Yeah.
Okay. So the current.
Well, when I say
map,
wedding, I mean ceremony.
Right.
Not just a lot of times that occupies about an hour and a half of it. And it's usually earlier in the day, 3 to 4 o'clock. And it's just very pretty for a natural ceremony spot. Our area that we have at the barn is quite small for the outdoor ceremony, and weather permitting, all ceremonies are outside, weather permitting. And just at least at our barn. Yeah.
And for reference, here's the current zoning map. Everything in red is already zone B1. These two brown blocks are the A3 that the south one is the one that is in question, or they've applied for today. But everything else in the red is B1. The portion on the right-hand side Side Ranch, that is in the city. That's why there's no color there.
So just to verify, the two we're looking at, or the one, it isn't for a driveway to the wedding ceremony. It's for cabins?
It could be for
Dwelling
either,
units.
both, or neither.
Yes.
Okay, but what is on the form says the driveway to the wedding ceremony. And we're saying it's B1, so it's whatever falls under B1.
Right, and actually when originally received the application for the driveway, I told them a rezoning would not be necessary. I didn't feel a driveway necessitated rezoning a property for that. In a lot of ways, it would be better if it didn't get rezoned, if it was just for that driveway. They have bigger plans for it. After I discussed it with them, they said, well, okay, actually, in the future, or somewhat in the future, this is what we plan on doing. So it does still need to be the B1. So initially, it sounds like the driveway, and then moving on from there for other permitted uses.
I got one more question then. Do we need to be concerned with the fact that if someone is looking on our documentation that's attached to our calendar agenda, right? And we have on there a driveway with a wedding ceremony, there might be public, they're fine with that. But if they think that we're approving something for potential cabin sites down the road, that's not clearly indicated on the documentation that we're publishing. Is that a problem?
No, because you're not approving the use.
Okay.
They could come in tomorrow and put a Walmart in there if you approve this. So what they say today is not binding. So as far as the public goes, what the public looks at is it's going to be B1 or a business district. And all that brings with it, or permitted use wise.
Any other questions from the committee? Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak? It's in the committee's hands.
I'll move to approve.
Jockey moves to approve. Second.
I'll second it.
Randy seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
It passes.
Thank you very much.
And this will go to the county board now, March 15th.
Will we get a letter in that,
What? What'd you say?
get a
No, you won't get
letter?
notified.
Okay. Is
You
it
won't get
Zoom?
notified. You can contact my office approximately the week beforehand, and we can get you the information. It will be
Okay.
another Zoom meeting though.
Okay,
Or
sounds
you can
good.
go on the county website and get the agenda that way with the link and the information.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you.
the next is the shoreland ordinance revision discussion. Dusty?
crying out loud. I've been muted that whole time. Now you're muted.
Okay, so I just have a question, and I don't know if it's just because of my eyes or some of the text is so close, but when you have read as a new text, and then you also have read as a strikeout, and then like right next to it, you actually have read as a change. It's not it's difficult to see. You know, I have to enlarge and whatever. Is there any way that we can change the color of either the text being new or the strikeout being a different color?
I can do that for the next.
That would be super, because some of it is just like right next to each other where you're doing it.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can do it. And then
I'm sure it's my eyes, but whatever.
So as we go down there a little bit more under the, for example, special exceptions, there's two paragraphs. One said special exceptions and their accessory uses had to go to the Board of Adjustment. Two later said unclassified and unspecified had to go to Board of Adjustment. I just combined them. Nothing really changed there. Some of the references to this chapter specifically.
When I saw the numbers, were they state stats that had changed or something?
Yeah,
You're
so
muted,
when she asked about the why the numbers changed. As you can see, what I have there, they went from 396.14 or from 8 to 14. The reason being is that as I moved stuff around and took out or basically moved stuff around, yeah, the chapter numbers move. So those are updated code references within this chapter. When we get down to mitigation, really no changes. I took the up to 3 points because, well, right there it shows what each one gets. So again, got rid of redundancy. Once we get down to Article 7, which is camping units and camping, I got rid of I'm trying to, across all of our ordinances, keep all the terminology the same. And in the sanitary ordinance, we refer to camping units. And that's what we're doing here. If you look at the definition, it does reference recreational vehicles, so it's not just abandoning them. There is, that chapter was already in there, does reference, it has to meet the sanitary ordinance, which has been changed, as we all know. Other internal requirements, you have to meet other chapters. Well, when you have an ordinance, you have to meet the chapter or the code sections anyway. That's a lot of the same things there. The special exception, they talk about what some of the criteria are. Well, those are really should apply to all special exceptions, which are in the administrative ordinance that we adopted 2 years ago. Update to a reference of a real property lister. We keep going down. No changes, no changes. Get to the maps. There are some updated references. What the shoreline wetland description is. Or sorry, just the word. There's some information on special exceptions. As I've talked about before on any zoning ordinance, the way a zoning ordinance is constructed is you have, in this district, here are the uses that are permitted. If it's not listed there, it's prohibited. Just by how zoning works. There are uses also listed as a conditional use or special exception. So what I'm doing is removing the prohibited uses because it makes no sense to be in there. You can also see the site requirements. Those are all the road setbacks. I already have that in there. I have it in another spot in the ordinance that applies to all the sections. Get down here, and this is about 99% of the change I'm making I'm proposing to make a change in the ordinance. Saying goodbye to the Conservancy District. A little background on that, approximately, well, almost 50 years ago now, 45 years ago, no, 50 years ago, towards the beginning of the shoreline zoning, when that started, the Conservancy District, I finally found where it said why it was created. And the major purpose, or the only stated purpose, was to protect wetlands in the shoreland area. Well, a number of years later, they created what's called the Shoreland Wetland District. We had to adopt that, and that has to be all areas mapped by the DNR as wetlands have to be included as shoreland wetland. At that point, Conservancy and shoreland, for the most part, become redundant. Conservancy, we can map outside of the wetland areas, and about the only difference that I've seen in it is if you have two pretty decent sized wetlands with a 100-yard gap in between. That's upland. In the Conservancy District, or the way the Conservancy District was mapped, a lot of times that middle area was included, which at that point you couldn't do anything on it. Conservancy District is extremely restrictive. By removing that, and anything that is mapped as wetlands would go to wetland. Anything else I'm proposing would go to recreational residential. That's out of wetlands, it's no longer Conservancy. But that 100-yard gap would now be recreational residential because it's not mapped as wetland. And that's the change in the ordinance. That actually means something. And this is, like I said, first crack at this. We're going to, well, anybody who's zoned Conservancy now in the shoreland areas will be notified. If you guys authorize me to go ahead with the public hearing, I'm going to send out a mailing to everybody that's zoned Conservancy that their property will be changing zoning designations, be published in the paper. I'll work with Corp Council to make sure what the requirements are.
Just crazy, but I have a question. I'm looking at definitions. Domestic animals, limit of 2 per dwelling. And I think it's in definitions. I have a bunch of notes, but is that practical? I mean, it's not for harvest or eating or whatever, but I know many that have a bunch of cats and maybe a dog.
I see domestic animals, any animal typically or atypically kept as a pet, not for harvest
Yep.
of any sort.
And then it's number 6 somewhere. Domestic animals, limit of 2 per dwelling. So find domestic animals again and you'll find it. Just thinking it's not practical.
I can tell you that we do regulate the number of animals in comprehensive zoning. It's not unheard of to do that. Whether 2 is the right number or not, okay, so I found it. Under the recreational residential district, permitted uses is domestic animals, limit of 2 per dwelling. Anything more than that would become considered a kennel, which would require special approval if it's listed as a special exception.
So you're telling me with my 2 cats and my 1 dog that I need a special permit?
This is only shoreline. That's what I'm saying. I think there needs to be a limit because I've seen many places in this county that are what was that? Yes.
I
But like I
agree,
said,
but
2
I
may
think,
not be the right answer.
yeah, maybe we need to look at that.
In the comprehensive zoning ordinance, it would be, if it's a residential district, you're limited to 5 per parcel. If it's anything other than residential, you're limited to 1 animal unit per acre. And an animal unit is the equivalent of 5 dogs or 5 cats, 1 horse, 1 cow. So really, if you had 10 acres, you could have up to 50 dogs. But that's zoned ag out in the middle of, not in a residential area in theory. But
So this is
shoreline, but we can,
and recreational residential, right?
right.
So then
Which is the vast
5
majority of.
So then 5 might be the magic number then. I'm just throwing it out there.
And that is something we can change. The state does not regulate the number of animals in shoreland areas. So if the committee's up, or we can certainly do that. I can put that in the draft for next time and see what happens during the public hearing. Would the committee be opposed to that, or? 2 does seem like kind of a small number to me.
Yeah, it does.
But that was in there. I mean, that's what's been in there.
You're telling me I can have 320 cats.
Please don't. So as I'm going down here, you'll see the administration section is all pretty much gone, and that's because it's part of what I did was a couple years ago, we created that zoning administration ordinance, bringing in all the administration components from all the different ordinances into one that applied all of it. For some reason, those additions became green. I know at one point that it was all blue. Board of Adjustment, that's all crossed off because of, that's also in the administration ordinance. Enforcement and penalties is also in the administration ordinance. Then I went through the definitions, and there was a few things that I just got rid of the definition because they are not referenced in the code at all. At no point in the shoreline ordinance is buildable area a term used. So at that point, there's no point in defining it. Even if it's not defined, and for whatever reason that issue comes up, it then uses the typical dictionary definition or accepted definition. And yeah, hand tool. There was a few things that just didn't matter. The class highway or the highway classes, well, those are defined elsewhere in the ordinance. You're muted.
Yeah. In regards to home occupation and professional home offices, where are these specified or determined, and are they set by state statute? So if you go down in the definitions, go ahead. Well, you have home occupation, and then you have professional home offices. And to me, I'm just wondering who's determining that? Where are they specified? Are we held to this by state statute?
You're muted, Dusty.
You
I
know,
think I would have.
my thing is with more and more of life in general, there's more and more people that are having home offices. So I'm wondering if that should be limited. I mean, yeah, I think it should need to be broadened a little bit. I don't know, something. Because there's more and more people that are moving up here and they're using their homes as an office and working from home to a central place someplace.
And for the most part, if you're just working out of your home, I mean, you're telecommuting or whatever, and nobody's coming to your property, that's not what this is addressing. You don't need to do anything special. This is, I make quilts and people come in. Generally, it's stuff that's made on the property, whether it's crafts, as long as it's woodworking, kind of gets into not a gray area, but a tougher area in that you're not supposed to be able to hear it on a neighboring property. Well, if I have my table saw going, well, you might hear it. I'm a candle maker and I set up a little shop. It's incidental to my house. I'm the only employee. It takes up less than a certain percentage of the square footage. That's what this is addressing. Now, you did mention the professional offices where they're not making a product, so you don't fall into that definition. However, you know, if it's a tax service, it's probably a pretty low impact on the neighborhood. And that's what most of ours look at. And is it set by state statute? No. Do we have the ability to change it? Yeah. Or, you know, open that up a little bit more. Even if it's not permitted, most of the time it would be permitted coming through a special hearing process. You're still you're muted.
So that might be an area of change that we just have to come up with our recommendations for?
And actually, under recreational residential, one of the permitted use number 5 is home occupations and professional home offices. So anything that would fall under those two definitions are permitted without a special hearing. If you go beyond that, and kind of the guide I always use is, are your neighbors going to know you're doing this? If they do, you're probably going to a special hearing. Unless it's specifically called out in the ordinance that it's okay.
So a gray area that people always ask me about, that they have a mom and pop shop and they do some small engine repair. I mean, obviously it's not in their home, it's probably in their garage or barn.
Yep.
And people are gonna be coming back and forth. But to me, that kind of is a home occupation if it's a small, I don't know.
Yep. But not under the definition. It has to be conducted entirely within a residential structure by its occupant. The use is incidental to the principal use, employs no more than one non-resident, uses only household equipment, and does not keep or sell stock and trade except that made on the premises. The home occupation includes things such as babysitting, millinery, if I said that right, dressmaking, canning, laundry, music teaching, and not more than 2 pupils at one time. But it doesn't include any goods visible from the street, nor barber, beauty shops, dance schools, real estate brokerage, or photographic studios. With a small engine repair shop, that is something you're not typically using household equipment. You're using car hoists, jacks, that's not household equipment. And usually a car repair shop, that's also defined as, or typically known as something else.
Okay, so just a wrinkle. I repair small appliances. Right? That would fall underneath this.
If you're doing it in the house and you only use typical household tools.
Okay. So there's a fine line you're saying, and okay. Or like home computer parts, right? I mean, computers are used in the home.
Both of those are getting into questionable area because you're probably keeping stuff that's not made on the property. You're keeping stock and trade that's not made in the property. So if you're working on computer repair or building computers, say, you're buying 20 motherboards and computer or towers and monitors. That's not stuff you're making on the property. It's a ingredient, I guess.
I'm sorry, would it fall under professional home office then? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what's what.
To conduct the professions of doctors, of medicine, dentists, nurse practitioners, clergymen, architects, landscape architects, professional engineers, professional land surveyors, lawyers, artists, teachers, authors, musicians, and other recognized professions shall not exceed 20% of the total floor area of any of the residents, and only one non-resident person may be employed. So again, are you doing it in the house? I mean, those are professional offices. Usually they don't have any. They're not making anything. They're not selling a good. They're selling a service. That's why it's called professional home offices. It's geared towards services. And a lot of stuff in zoning is it's a case by case, and I have to apply the ordinance accordingly. That's about the extent of, like I said, I got rid of a few other definitions. Silviculture has one meaning. There's no reason we need to have it in here.
One
Conditional
more.
use-
I'm sorry, can I ask one more question? ZZZ, routine maintenance of vegetation. In there is the loss of any existing vegetation. Do prescribed burns fall underneath that at all?
If you go back, actually, the definitions are not regulations. If you go back into the vegetation section of the ordinance, it talks about vegetation removal under plans approved by DNR or us. I think it actually calls out either prescribed burns or best management practices for wooded areas. Something along those lines. You're muted.
So it included mowing, so I'm assuming it's just routine maintenance of vegetation along like the shorelines?
Well, that's the only place
ZZZ
this ordinance
applies to?
applies.
Okay.
Oh, well, the shoreline ordinance applies within 1,000 feet of a lake or 300 feet of a river, stream, or creek. The 99% of the concern that we have is in the first, well, essentially 35 feet from the water. And there are routine maintenance of vegetation. You have a viewing corridor, you have 35% width. It has to have vegetation, but you could mow it, so that's routine maintenance of that. You can keep removing that vegetation, essentially. And that's all I have for changes. So my
Okay.
question to the committee, is there things I need to, you don't like, you want me to change, or do I have to go ahead to do a public hearing?
I think you're ready for a public hearing, especially if you put it up to 5 pets.
I've got some changes, but it's all housekeeping, so I'll just send them in.
Yep.
I have another question too. Is there any way that we could be presented the maps as they're going to be portrayed publicly, or?
Yes, we're about halfway throughout the county, or done throughout the county. My plan is by public hearing or by adoption anyway, it would be, those maps would be completed. I do have a couple, Sam and I are still working on making them right, but we're moving along quite nicely on them. But yes, the answer is yes, you'll get maps. And it's actually a layer already on the, we added a layer onto the GIS mapping site. I don't know if I'm still sharing or not. Okay, so let me.
So you're saying that this could be all put together for an April 6th public hearing? Or do you want to hold it off until May with your new committee?
I guess I'd leave that more up to you, or I can just see where I'm at if I'm ready for April, or just plan on May. But if you would like to, I mean, I believe I can be ready by April, but I guess I wasn't putting a date on it. When I'm ready for a public hearing, you guys will be the first to know about it,
Okay,
if that's acceptable.
this to me. Everybody else?
So yeah, I do have. So right now we have the wetlands, and I don't know why it's not. Okay, well, they're on there. I don't know why they're not showing up nicely. You're muted.
Okay, how did you get in here to see these layers? Because sometimes I go in and I have very few layers available, and other times
Sure.
I get them.
That is an easy answer.
I'm gonna remute myself now.
For anybody who wants to get in here, you start with the county website. Go to land records. The bottom right blue button, web portal. And you scroll down and you have choices. So if you go into the tax parcel viewer map application, that doesn't have much for zoning in it at all, but it has all your tax parcel information. If you go to, they all have their own thing. The zoning application is the one we use. That has all those layers in it. You can also go into mailing labels application. You can pinpoint a property, show me a buffer 500 feet around it, and it'll make mailing labels for you. That's how we do our public notices. Like earlier that was coming up. That's how we find those. So if you go to the zoning application, that's where eventually all those are located. And it's
So you cannot get to them via land
there.
record, because I think some people make the mistake of going on the left button.
No.
I muted.
Sorry. So
Yeah.
they go on the other side. Okay. And that's maybe where the confusion exists. Okay.
Yeah, because if you go into the left button, and some people do that, or you can do this. If you go into, oops. There will be view GIS map. That takes you to the tax parcel one that I said doesn't have any of the zoning information. So if you actually want to go get the tax parcel or the zoning stuff, you have to go into the map first. That's all I have on Shoreline.
Okay, we'll leave it up to the new board you have.
You're muted, but yes. Okay.
Okay.
All right, the financial report.
Doing good. Nothing. We're, I think, right on par with, I guess I can stop sharing. We're right on par with last year at this time. Just for January, this is for just January.
Yeah.
And we've already, for January, we had about 4,300 come in just for building, 11,000 total. And that's putting us right in good shape. Permit wise, I believe there was almost the same.
It looked pretty good.
Hey, Dustin, on
A
the
little
on the
bit.
sanitary permits,
Yes.
for 2022, you had 13 and it was 4,600. In 21, we had 14 and it was 2,850. Or did the prices go up?
No. Part of that is review fees, which don't get separated out as a separate sanitary because it's part of a sanitary permit. There are mounds that are, so if somebody takes out a mound permit with a review fee, it's 750. A conventional is 400. So that does make up a little bit of the difference. The other part of it is those end of month numbers at the bottom of that sheet. Those are, the permit numbers are counted for that month, but the dollar amounts, if it was after the last deposit of our month, don't show up until the following. So dollar amounts are, from month to month, are tough to go by. But yeah, we are down a little bit in permits, not drastically, but and then
Considering last year was up a lot, I think where you're at is still up from 2 years ago.
well,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
and it's hard to judge anything off
Yeah.
of 1 month.
Okay.
Okay,
That's all I have.
the next is planning and zoning division updates.
So last week, yes, a couple weeks ago, a few months ago, let's start there. I talked to the committee about offering the town of Quincy to use us as to hire us as their zoning administrator, not under county zoning, but it would be the town zoning ordinance. We would just, instead of them hiring an outside company or a private individual to do it, they're just hiring us to do it. I went to a meeting a couple weeks ago. There was some discussion. General engineering was there. They had some questions, or the town of Quincy had questions. We did the following week at their regular meeting. I had put together a proposal for them. They accepted that. So as of right now, once the contract's hammered out and everything, we will be, or our office will be considered the zoning administrator for the town of Quincy and their ordinance. The contracted amount is enough. And I have actually been in contact with HR. We're talking about possibly trying to find like a halftime person to do that, and a couple of other kind of become a shoreland specialist potentially. So we're still working through the details on all that, but we will be. They seemed as if they were happy with the route we were going to take, and they felt that they really needed some assistance in enforcing their ordinance. So we will be working on that coming up. That's all I have for updates, really.
Any correspondence?
Madam Chair,
Yes?
can you guys hear me? All right,
Yeah, you're very faint, Cindy.
wow. So Dusty, can you touch on the, how the position will be funded and all expenses related to that position?
Yes. So the contracted, or the contracted amount would 100% cover that halftime position from what or after we calculated it out. So it would add nothing to our budget, if that's what you're referring to, Cynthia. And again, it's not, they would be a code enforcement officer. Details haven't been hammered out. We haven't posted the position, but that's the initial. Before I made the offer, I wanted to make sure that that was an option on the table for us. And it seemed we were receptive. It was recepted well.
Okay, any other questions?
Dustin,
next
I have a
meeting-
question. Sorry,
Go ahead.
just one question, always. The contracted amount was for Town of Quincy zoning administrator. But now you're saying that this same position would do shoreline ordinance throughout the county?
The position that I'm referring to, hopefully hiring, would essentially just be another staff member in my office. But because the Town of Quincy ordinance is a completely different ordinance than our zoning ordinance, it would be great to have somebody focused on that, where they become my Town of Quincy expert. And shoreline is a very different ordinance also. So right now, Rich and I are going to have to learn, and Joe, and Janine and Lauren are all going to have to learn the additional ordinance. But to have one person that I would kind of dedicate to that area, I think would be an extremely efficient way to handle it. However, I don't think that they would have enough. I don't think it would be enough work to fill the halftime position. And we spend a lot of time in Rome, and there's some enforcement stuff I'd like to do up there that we don't, that would take substantial amount of time. And I would like to have this position focus on that also. And I think that'd be a good balance.
Okay, so just to verify though, the funds coming from Town of Quincy would fund that overall need is how I'm assuming. Cynthia, right? Are you saying that the money that they're getting from Town of Quincy would also pay for Town of Rome?
The position that we would be hiring would be coming out of my budget, the planning and zoning budget. The money that we would receive from the Town of Quincy is what they agreed to hire us as their administrator. That would go into the budget. In this case, because I have both that in and the out, it would end up being levy neutral for us.
Okay, the next meeting is April 6th at 3 p.m. The meeting is adjourned.
You guys hear me now?
What's wrong?